So, good morning, everybody. This is Kiara. It's June 8th, 2020. So, welcome to this Facebook Live meditation from wherever you are in this world. So, I'm grateful we can continue working together in this way. For those of you who are new, we are doing this tri-weekly meditation, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 9 a.m. European time. So just translate that to wherever you'll be. I also want to announce before we do the meditation that we're in the middle of a 5-day webinar right now. And so we've already finished the introduction, looking at some of the Inca practices. And then the coming Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we'll be going deeper into Ilahinur and Gayanur and some deeper Inca work, followed by a third level deepening towards the end of the month. And so anyone who is interested, please contact me or Jamie or Marianka or Yvette. Jamie's email is jamiefrenken, that's JAMYFRENCKEN @hotmail.com. And then we'll be continuing again in July. So the July dates will be 4th and 5th, and then 8th through 10th, and then 24th and 25th. All right, so here we are. Thank you for joining me once again. So I'm curious what we're going to talk about today. I really never know in advance. It's just what comes in the group field. If there's something that you would like me to speak about, if you have any questions, just let me know. This goes for each time that we come together. Otherwise, we can maybe simply start talking about bridging the worlds. We've been doing a lot of the practices to create openings between the three worlds that we simultaneously exist in, although we don't normally become aware of that. So the less aware we are of our simultaneous coexistence, the less we can actually connect with worlds beyond our own, what we call the middle world, the normal, ordinary state of consciousness. So this ordinary state of consciousness is experienced through reason. So it's the mind that's the bridge into reality. So we look at the world around us. It's perceived through our senses and given a reality that seems to be real. So what we think we see out there is actually impulses traveling into the optic nerves, which get translated as vision, which get translated in time and space as an object appearing to be outside of ourselves. And then we interpret this reality through the rational mind. That's what this is there for. And has been very useful, has been part of our evolutionary journey. But this is only one aspect of reality existing in the middle world. As we connect with the upper world, there's intuition. We get to experience another world, another dimension of reality through this sense known as intuition. We actually enter into oneness with what seems to be out there. And then we're perceiving it not out there, but within ourselves. And that's a level of identity where knowledge becomes much more intuitive. And then we have a level of the mind or a level of perception connecting us to the lower worlds, which has to do with instinct. And this is also something that we've forgotten how to bring into our lives, how to use, how to trust. So at the animal state of consciousness, we are very dependent on instinct for our survival. And then as we develop reason, we tend to replace instinct with reason. And then as we move onwards towards the next stage of our human development, our human evolution, as divine humans, we are bridging into the world of intuition. We haven't quite achieved that yet as a collective species, but many of us are learning how to open up those doorways to experience reality in those terms. So ideally, if we can bridge all three worlds through instinct, reason, and intuition together, then we can experience life much more multidimensionally in a way that we can achieve a level of mastery where we can be creative forces influencing and affecting the world around us, because we are not separate from that, and we know that, we feel that, we experience that on a deep level. What the Incas would say is that whenever we're out of touch with this multidimensional reality, it's because of hucha, it's because of this appearance or illusion based on separate consciousness. Is where we refuse to allow the flow of life to take over, and we refuse to trust this flow as something good for us, as something that's always beneficent. And so we resist out of a fear, out of a need to control. And this fear can take on many different forms. So all of us have at some point or the other experienced fear in our lives, often overwhelmingly so, especially when there's times of crisis, or things happen that we don't like, or things don't happen that we wish, or we feel powerless and impotent, or we are under stress and feel the need to change our reality or control our reality, or we feel victimized by people or the universe around us. All these situations create a level of stress which, if we are trapped within the middle world, it allows, actually it freezes us into that state of consciousness even more. So then it becomes like a vicious circle. The more out of touch we are with our multidimensional self, the more frozen we become. The more frozen we become, the less it's possible to reach beyond our limited perception. So ultimately it's the fear that stands in the way. And this fear, the deepest level of this fear, I would say, is existential fear. What does that mean? I would say this has to do with a false identification with one aspect of ourselves rather than with all of who we are. And so as we falsely identify ourselves with the personal aspect, the human aspect, the physical aspect of our being, we cut off everything else. And there's a belief system that we fall into where none of the rest is real. And so if it isn't real, there's no point to learn how to communicate or commune with those aspects, no point in losing what we have fought so hard to find. So we've worked all our life at developing a sense of ego, And then we discover that the sense of ego is incomplete. It's only a partial aspect of being. And then we come to this choice point. Do we trust that we can allow this partial aspect of our being to let go, to surrender to something greater? What if there isn't anything beyond? What if this is all there is? And then we risk losing what we've worked so hard to find and achieve and develop. So at some point in each of our lives, we come to that choice point, that fork in the road. And even after we choose to release that sense of personal self and join with more of who we are, it's a constant choice. The road doesn't stop, it doesn't end. There's always choices, new choices, based on how much of our essential being are we willing to embody, to incarnate, to allow through our personal self. So this is a journey, and wherever we are in this journey, it's fine. There's no end to it, and it began from the moment of creation. So we are part of this journey. We created this entire scenario so we could discover ourselves in a different way. So it's like a game of hide and seek. You hide yourself and you find yourself. You hide yourself and you find yourself. There's no one or no thing outside of that appearance, except that it feels that way as long as we're stuck in this world of the middle, or the personal self. And then we create all of our masks and pretenses based on fear. So once we understand that, we can choose to release those fears, and we can choose to look at those fears. We can recognize that these fears are not real in themselves, and that the only thing we really have to fear is fear itself. Okay, so maybe that's enough for now. As we do this next meditation, see if you can identify one of these fears that you're dealing with right now. Whatever it may be, it could be existential, it could be social, it could be physical, it could be a fear of change, it could be a fear of loss, it could be a fear of death. All these fears are simply reflections of the one fear, which has to do with loss of identity, the false illusion of identity, which limits us into this one fragment of reality. So, one acronym for fear, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real, is the appearance of reality, which is the illusion. And once we recognize it's an illusion, it doesn't make it less real, but it expands the perceptions so that we can include other aspects of reality, to integrate all of this as one. That's when we come into our mastery as creator consciousness. So let's do the meditation again. Yeah, good to hear from all of you. And many of you have been joining us for these meditations fairly often in the last couple of months. So I'm grateful for this continued space that we create together. And just a reminder that as we open the doorways between the worlds on a personal level, we are also assisting and supporting the collective consciousness of humanity to make that connection with Gaia, with the collective consciousness of the planet, which of course includes the human species. All right. So not a whole lot of words today. We're just connecting into that silence, in that space where all the worlds come together. Enter deeply into that stillness. The stillness that begins within your own heart. And from there you find yourself connecting with the planetary heart, or the planetary soul. Which then becomes a gateway to connect with the galactic soul. Then beyond that to the cosmic soul, the soul of creation. The great mother that dwells within the heart of matter, all that exists in space and time. And then you find yourself going beyond that veil of space and time, the veil that we experience from this side as illusion of Maya. We go beyond that veil of time and space and creation and experience our identity with the spirit of all life, consciousness, the great mother beyond form. From that side of the veil, all of this is seen as if through a projector. Maya is the great projection of the self. And the veil is time and space. Is that matrix through which this illusion of separateness can be maintained And it's a beautiful illusion that we've chosen to play out. And so let's do this consciously, understanding who we are equally on both sides of the veil. All of it is the Great Mother, within form and beyond form. There's only one Spirit. Call it Mother, call it Father, it doesn't matter. It's beyond gender, it's beyond personality, it's beyond any kind of quality or identity that we can project. Just know that this is who you are, and that is enough. And in that knowing, in that identification, all fear dissolves. It's so simple. Truth is always simple. And it's not a mental truth, it's a knowledge that comes as we integrate these three aspects of intuition, reason, and instinct. It's a knowledge born of identity, not a concept, not a belief. And then that becomes a knowing. A knowing that we can trust. A knowing that becomes a guiding light. There's a comment I'm reading. When I have fear, I repeat the mantra, I am in the peace of God, and all fear disappears. And I would add to that also, I am a piece of God, a fractal, a holographic aspect of God. And notice what happens with that awareness. So as you remain in this stillness, I'd just like to make one announcement. Starting next week, my friend David Shurjan and I will be doing a weekly podcast. So the details will be sent out on this Facebook page and other pages. So we're calling it the Age of Pandora. Pandora representing an image of the new earth, obviously from that movie Avatar. How do we create this world together? How do we recognize this world as it's created? How do we become guardians and caretakers of such a world? Starting now, seeing that this world is already here, and then simply allowing it to unfold. Into outer manifestation. Please also check out my website, kiarawindrider.net, for other thoughts, articles, books. I notice Katya is online. She's been designing all the covers for this set of books. Just really, really beautifully designed and depicted. And all these books are now being republished with Euroclub and will be available through the website, through Amazon. And it's all about Gaia Luminous, Homo Luminous, in the age of Pandora. Living this as a direct experience of reality. As multidimensional divine creatures. We are aspects of Gaia, and therefore one with Gaia, even if we've been conditioned to think of ourselves as separate. So in this space of stillness, you're becoming aware of that point of unity, that multidimensionality, where the human soul and the soul of Gaia find each other. And this is a space beyond fear. And when there's no fear, the vibrational frequency becomes steady and strong and capable of embodying the fullness of who we are. The light of the world.